Hello, Brian Aubuchon. How are you, young man?
I'm fantastic, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you. Well, Brian, you're up there in Michigan, and I'm a Buckeye, so we won't go down that road because we want to make sure this stays civil.
Well, we get a chance to not lose to you this year because they're not going to play. So that's a silver lining, I guess.
That's what I call a great attitude. That's fantastic. Well, Brian, your story, I've told it many times, and the reason I tell it is because when people fail at something, a lot of times they don't try it again, which is a big mistake because a failure isn't someone that fails, it's a person who fails to learn from their experience. Brian, you used to weigh 360 pounds. You've got five boys. One of them said to you, Dad, why don't you lose some weight? And then all of a sudden, you go to a training camp in triathlon uh, to want to do an Ironman. And what prompted you to go from losing that weight to wanting to do an Ironman?
It was one of those things that kind of just fell out of my mouth. A couple of my friends and a good cousin of mine had done them previously, and I really didn't know anything about it. I wanted to find the hardest possible thing that I could go do because losing the weight was very difficult. And it just fell out of my mouth. Marie Osmond said, what are you going to do now? I said, I'm going to do an Ironman. And then I went back to the hotel that night and I Googled it and I said, uh-oh, I don't know how to swim and I don't have a bike. But we got on that path and we started to figure things out.
Uh, but then you go on this Ironman trail and you said, all right, I've got to go to a camp, a training camp. You went to Siri Lindley and Rebecca Keats camp in Colorado. And you were pretty scared when you were there for the first few days, weren't you?
Oh yeah. I was definitely out of place. Everybody was talking about things I didn't know anything about, and Miranda Carfrey was there, and she spoke to us, and I'm going. I'm looking for a window out of rally sport to jump out of, uh, thinking I might hit the pool. If not, at least I might break something to have an excuse to go home. So I'm not normally a person that feels out of place, but uh, it was overwhelming to see all the people that had such accomplishments, and here I am in the corner going, I've never done anything. And they asked me, they said, hey, what races have you done? And I said, I've never done a race. And well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to Lake Placid in about 3 months. And they giggled, but then they got behind me and I said, you're not supposed to support me. You're supposed to tell me to go find something else to do. And they took me in as one of their own, which kind of put me on a springboard to my path.
Well, they are. You had beautiful mentors there, that's for sure. Let's get to Lake Placid. You take the whole family. You've got the boys with you. You've got your support group with you, and Lake Placid is your first attempt at an Ironman. It's not the easiest course in the world for you to choose, but then you came into that finish line, and you were a minute 30 seconds below the cutoff.
I missed the because I had in Placid I had five flat tires on the second lap of the bike course, and I missed the final cutoff of the bike course. I was at the bottom of the last climb into town. It was bittersweet because I wanted to be there and finishing, yet I'm on my phone going, okay, where's the next race? Where am I going? What's the next? Where I've got to do this now. This is in my blood. And then fast forward about 9 weeks later in Tremblant, and that's where I was the last finisher. You had called me in, and when I got done, they came to me in the tent and said, it doesn't count. And I said, yeah, it does. That cool guy out there just called my name. I got this really cool medal. Yeah, it counts. And they said, yeah, it doesn't. You were 17:01:30. And I said, well, what does that mean? They said, well, 17. So you did it, and it's awesome that you did it, but it's not in the book. So that talk about a little flame turned into a bushfire.
It raged into this big fire within you. Why do you think you were so set on finishing an Ironman?
It's funny because there's been a lot of things in my life that haven't worked out exactly the way I wanted to. And a lot of the times it was always easier to just throw in the towel, really. So I got done and everyone's, oh, yeah, it's great. You finished and all that stuff. And I said, you know, for a minute, I thought, yeah, you know what? I accomplished the goal. And I said, no, that's not it. And yeah, it's great. You finished and all that stuff. And I said, you know, for a minute, I thought, yeah, you know what? I accomplished the goal. And I said, no, that's not it. And I thought a lot about my son Dominic, who's autistic, and he doesn't get the opportunity when he's having a rough day to quit. He doesn't get that chance to say, you know what, this is just too hard. I can't do it. He's got to do it, and he's got to find a way. So I thought to myself, if you quit at this, nobody's going to care. I mean, no one's going to say anything. It's just going to be one of those things that you tried to do it and it didn't work out. But if you were able to somehow figure out how to finish this up, get this done, then A, you'll have that for yourself anytime it gets hard. But then B, not just for Dominic, but for all my sons, anytime they come up in life against something that's just overwhelmingly hard or they just want to quit, I'm hoping they can come back to this. And sure, people will tell you, oh, you're good. You don't need to do it. And I just told them, I got mad. I mean, a couple of my brothers said, what are you doing? I said, you just don't get it. I said, it's just something inside you that you got to do. And it's translated a million times over.
And then fast forward, we go through how many more? You've got 2 now. We go through what, 3 more?
Yep. We went, after that, we went to Tremblant again.
Yeah.
And we missed the bike cutoff. It was the year that it rained, torrential downpours in the rain. And we missed the bike cutoff way out on the far end of the freeway out there. And then we decided to go to Boulder. I talked Beck into letting me race Boulder, and she said it was a little harder than Mount Tremblant, but we'll see what we can do. And I missed the run cutoff by just a couple of minutes in the last checkpoint. Back to Tremblant, back to Boulder, and then finally that was by the 6th time everybody. And I won't say Beck tried to talk me out of it. She just asked me where my heart was. And I had a long bike ride with Siri one day, and her and I talked extensively about what motivates me and what drives me. And you know, some people are in this to win them. Some people are in this because they have a disability and they just want to prove to themselves and everybody else they can do it. Everybody has their own reason. The stories of all the people that try this amazing feat are incredible. And I told her, I said, you know, it's a little for me. I'll be honest. I want it for me just to pat myself on the back and say, hey, look, you can do this. But more for my kids, but more for anybody who's ever been told, because the triathlon community is great. They're beautiful people. And I don't think I've ever run into anybody who's had a negative thing to say about my shape or my size or my ability or anything else. Everybody's very, very it's a loving family. But I wanted it. I wanted to just to get it. I wanted to go after it and just not to prove everybody wrong, just to prove myself right.
Well, Brian, from where I stand and where I was standing at every one of those finish lines, and the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, knowing you didn't make that cutoff, I personally thought, there's probably a time he's just going to stop trying, because my goodness, 6 times, there's not a lot of people in the world, Brian, that would go for number 7. There just really isn't. Then all of a sudden you come back to Mont Tremblant. We all know you're there. During the day, I was checking up on you to see where you're at, but it's very hard because you don't know how fast you're going to run that last, 10K or 20K of the run. But then all of a sudden, here you come. And I look at the timers. They're giving me a head shake. Yes, he's going to do it, just because of the time thing. You came in, what was your time? 16:53. I remember saying, yep. You have 7 minutes to spare, dude. And to be able to call you an Ironman for that 7th time after you never, ever giving up was one of the most shining examples I've ever seen in my life of a never give up attitude. You exemplify that, my friend. And congratulations on that finish.
Seeing you there on that ramp, that's just an amazing finish, an amazing scene. And all the people that are there that come back for the midnight finishers. I think it's the epitome of don't give up. I mean, you're kind of a rock star, Mike, just a little bit, but to have that moment with you and then have it with all of those people there that cheered me on throughout the whole day and really got me across that line. And then just to sit back, I remember sitting in a tent. I said, I've never been in a finisher's tent before. And there was no food and there was no drinks left or anything, but that's okay because I was sitting there. I'm going, you know what? I'm in the tent. I earned a spot in the tent. And I'm going to sit here for a minute. And but yeah, it was a very special day, and to get to share it and get to tell that story again sometimes is just it's. I think it epitomizes anybody who ever thinks they can't do something. Just throw that video on and take a look at it, and give me a call or shoot me a text, and I'll walk you through it.
Well, Brian, our pleasure that day was us being with you, not the reverse of that. We were honored to be in your presence because what you did to be able to come back time after time after time and never give up is something we all should live by. So, Brian, signing off, I know you're going through a tough time too, and the COVID too, with your business. You've got a bowling alley. I don't think it's open yet, and so many people are out there in the same boat. What's keeping you motivated, keeping you going, and getting through this? What kind of advice could you give to your fellow age groupers?
Straight up, I just tell them, don't give up. Don't you ever quit. Yeah, my business has been closed since March. I don't know if we're going to be able to even reopen. Michigan got hit pretty hard. My family, my son actually got hit with it very hard, and it was a tricky thing to navigate. And life's gonna throw stuff at you. And I use my experience in Ironman as literally my Bible now. So it's gonna get tough. You could have great smooth water for the swim, and that could be a great year or two where everything's kicking smooth and great. And then you're gonna get to a climb, and you're gonna hit a wall, and you're gonna have to decide, do I have that in me? And the answer is always yes. The answer is always 100% yes. You have it in you. You just got to find it, and you got to grab it, and you got to hang on. And it'll get windy, it'll get rainy, you'll pop tires, you'll cut your legs up, you'll get sunburned, it'll get hot, whatever. But the bottom line is, you shouldn't ever give up on yourself, because you can do amazing things, whether you believe it or not. And sometimes it takes getting put up against that test, but I guarantee you'll come through it. Guaranteed.
Well, Brian, it's been a pleasure to be able to talk with you and just be in your presence because of who you are and what you're made of. We should all aspire to be a Brian Aubuchon and never give up. So thank you very much, young man. And as always, aloha.
Aloha to you, Michael. Thank you very much.